Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Raine Wayland. So, buddy, you usually have new things that you'd like to tell everyone, like of what you've seen since the last time. Now, I finally have something. Even though I kind of already talked to you about it, and you said you didn't really care.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just zone out. Then you just tell everyone else.
Ashley and I saw Haunted Mansion, which honestly, it was good. I didn't think it was bad at all. I mean, as I was texting you about, compared to the Eddie Murphy version from 2003,
yeah,
the bar was already pretty low. So all Disney had to do is just be better than that. And
Haley is sitting over here, and she made a face at you because she likes that one. So apparently, this is. But look, I'm also learning new information. I did not know she had ever seen the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion, but now apparently it's her favorite movie. So I don't know.
But see, here's the thing, though. Having Ashley and I having been on the ride itself,
sure.
The Eddie Murphy one is just way too on the nose with everything about the ride. As where this one was a little bit more subtle, and it had an actual really good story to it. Plus, I mean, fucking Lakeith Stanfield, bro, he's the best. He's so good in everything.
Yeah, that's true. I do like Lakeith Stanfield a whole bunch. And Danny DeVito's amazing also. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but the cast was a knockout. Now, I will say, I have a lot of questions on specifically around one actor. And that's Jared Leto as the Hatbox Ghost.
Oh, Jared Leto's in this movie?
Yeah, he's the villain.
Okay.
Spoilers for everyone if you didn't already know that.
Jesus Christ. It's only been out a week, Raine.
But the thing I have a question about is how did they shoot him? Was because his character is one of the most iconic ghosts on the ride, which unfortunately is on the Disneyland ride in California, which we haven't been on. Disney World doesn't have. Disney World doesn't have. Well, didn't you say you went when you were a kid?
I was 13. That is correct.
Well, then it wasn't there when you were there.
Oh.
They just reinstalled him 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, I've been on the ride. Who was a part of it? I can't say, but I was there and I saw the holograms. It was very cool.
Well, the Hatbox Ghost is one of the most iconic because his head disappears and ends up in his hat box.
Interesting.
So Jared Leto plays that character. So I was curious as if they made him fully CGI or if Jared Leto was on set and then they just mocapped his face.
I don't know. Probably to keep everyone safe, they probably just CGI'd him in, just to keep everyone at arm's length. It's guys, don't get too close.
Yeah, he's gonna send you a dead rat in the mail.
Yeah,
especially because
all over you.
I was reading an interview with the director Justin Simeon, and he said, I only got to spend a little bit of time with Jared, but when I did, he was full Hatbox Ghost, and I'm like, really? He went full method for a kids movie.
I think method acting is embarrassing, and I don't care what people say. I think that's embarrassing. If you're a method actor, that's embarrassing, and you should be embarrassed.
Well, but our boy Cillian Murphy is a method actor.
Don't care.
They exclusively referred to him as Mr. Oppenheimer on set.
Embarrassing.
But here's the thing. Here's where I think method acting should improve is okay, when you're in the scene and you're fully in the scene, great. But as soon as the director yells cut or you're done for the day, drop the facade. You're not that person anymore. I mean, shit, fucking Heath Ledger drove himself crazy because he was the Joker 24/7.
I mean, I think that's an oversimplification. I think he was going through other stuff at the time. I understand. But, I mean, you're right. When people take it too far, Jared Leto's a wonderful example of that. just it is funny that he did it for Haunted Mansion, dude. That's pretty funny.
Well, and then of course they pitch shifted his voice, so his voice is much lower to match kind of, I guess, the Hatbox's ghost voice on the ride. But all in all, to say, with all of our twists and turns there, the movie was good. I enjoyed it. Ashley loved it because she loved the Haunted Mansion ride while we were at Disney World. Like, we even went in our Haunted Mansion paraphernalia that we bought. Yeah. Like, I have a shirt, like a button-up shirt that has the little bat stanchion. And then Ashley has a long sleeve shirt. She said she didn't care if she melted in the theater, that she was going to wear it. But yeah, it was great, you know.
Okay.
Ashley, you're going to be very offended by this. I asked Ashley, of the 3 movies we've seen in July, Oppenheimer, Barbie, and now Haunted Mansion, what order would she stack them in? Haunted Mansion, Barbie, Oppenheimer was her.
Unbelievable.
Now, she said it had nothing to do with because she didn't like Oppenheimer. It just, of the 3 movies, she would definitely go rewatch again and again. Haunted Mansion's at the top of the list.
Wow.
I was like, well, you know what? That's fine.
Sure. It's fine. The first time I ever went to a movie theater double feature was, we saw The Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy.
Uh-huh.
And then Mom saw that they were showing Timeline. And she goes, I love that book. Let's go see Timeline. And so then we went to go see Timeline.
You know, Ashley and I really tried to plan to go see Barbie then Oppenheimer, but it just, there was too much overlap in the showtimes. So yeah. Anyway, anything new that you've seen recently, buddy, or no?
Besides the movie we're talking about today? No, on Friday, obviously I watched the movie for the show. And then Haley was working. She had some like spreadsheet stuff to do for work. And so she was working, and I put in John Wick 4, and we just rewatched John Wick 4.
Nice.
It was pretty awesome. I drank 5 beers.
5 brewski beers?
Yeah, 5 brewski beers in my Mojo Dojo Casa house. And we watched John Wick 4, and it was awesome.
You know, Mom, when she went to Comic-Con, she got to sit in on the panel where they talked about the Continental show that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was awesome. And I was like, cool. Like, I didn't think that it wasn't not going to be awesome. So,
I mean, it's going to be a Peacock. That's not awesome. So
it's streaming on the cock.
Ugh.
That's a line that Sebastian Stan says in Pete Davidson's show Bupkis.
I just don't. I really want to see like Poker Face. I really want to see, you know, with Natasha Lyonne, but it's on Peacock, and I don't have it. And when I did have it and paid for the subscription, I still got ads. Fuck you, Peacock. Fuck you, NBC. I hate you. So
yeah, bro. Yeah, you know, they gotta keep churning out to their sponsors. You know,
not if I pay. So.
Well,
that was bad.
Well, buddy, would you like me to get this ball rolling for my final pick before the end of season series?
Yeah.
All right. So, everyone, this is my final pick of our, I was going to say Tim Burton-athon, which it's a Tim Burton-athon for me, but our one director-athon season. This is Tim Burton's, at least his second biopic we've done for this season, 2014's Big Eyes. So this was a first watch for the both of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted to see it, but just nothing. I didn't have like none of the timing like added up, so I just never had time to go see it. What's your excuse?
I frankly just wasn't interested. I saw the trailer. I go, well, that's the movie. And then I, you know, I, um, I don't know. I love Amy Adams. I love Christoph Waltz. And when we watched it on Friday, I was like, oh, Danny Houston. I love Danny Houston. And then I was like, oh, Kristen Ritter. Awesome. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I just never. Now, there were things while I was watching it that I was gearing up for, and I was like, okay, this will be interesting. I'm wondering what they're gonna do with this information. Because I have no prior knowledge of this, right? Of the story of this woman, right, of these paintings. I may have never even seen one before of her paintings. I don't remember ever seeing one before.
I don't think I've ever seen one of her paintings either,
right.
if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Which is kind of disappointing because my mom, I remember growing up, used to have a lot of books, coffee table books of art, prints of art, artwork and stuff like that. So I don't think I've ever seen any either. Yeah.
But here's that synopsis so I can tell you my disappointing thing.
Okay. All right. So Big Eyes follows the story of Margaret. I don't remember her former name, Margaret Keene, who is a painter who specifically paints portraits of children with really big eyes. She just feels like the eyes see everything, and this is just how she captures the world. While trying to make a living for herself and her daughter, she meets Walter Keene, who becomes her future husband. And he really has a lot of charisma and is very charming and convinces her, well, you should keep painting. Like, this is like you and I are going to have a gallery together, all that good stuff. And then people start to notice her paintings, but because he's such a good salesman, he's taking credit, which, like you said last week, is Scarlet Street. But unlike Scarlet Street, this is definitely a one-way agreement. As where in Scarlet Street, I've already purged his name, George, right?
Oh yeah. I don't remember.
We're gonna say it's George.
Weeks ago.
He was all for it. He was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. As were Margaret, when Walter proposes this idea to her, Margaret is very hesitant and very apprehensive because this is something that she's worked hard on for years. And so things start to snowball and they're making a lot of money and they get a gallery. All the while, Walter is just taking credit for all of these paintings. And he's even asking Margaret, like, well, I'm going to go on TV and I'm going to talk about our artwork. What should I say? Why does this inspire me? And finally, it all comes to a head when Margaret realizes that Walter doesn't know how to paint, doesn't know anything about painting, and has just been lying this whole time. Which it all culminates in an awesome lawsuit. And from what I read, it's pretty accurate to how the suit actually went down. And Margaret is vindicated and Walter doesn't get to see another penny. And that's Big Eyes. Go ahead and tell me what you're disappointed in.
Okay. So I guess this is an indictment of Tim Burton's blocking, because okay. I was 100% sure that Margaret's daughter wasn't there. Okay. Because of the visual language of these shots that she's in, right? So when her daughter's always behind her, right?
Yeah.
Or, always kind of just off to the side, and it's normally when they're by themselves. Obviously, I was, it once Walter says hi to her, talks to her, I was like, oh.
So what you're saying is it's the Janie thing with Ferris Bueller.
Yeah. Because, well, okay, so here's why I thought, again, especially I was all in when she went to that job interview.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I don't know, the way everything was just so, she was just so, like, standing up straight, very prim and proper, very,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, in the back seat, telling her mom good luck. And then, um, and it's like, you're not going to just leave her in the car, right? So I'm like, maybe she's not there, So that's kind of interesting, right? Maybe she's painting these paintings of her daughter because she misses her daughter and all that stuff. And I thought that was going to be the story, and it wasn't. But they continued to do that throughout the whole movie. Is they continually blocked her that way, or treated her as if she were a figment of her imagination in just the way she interacts with everybody else. Even when she's talking to people, I was for sure that Margaret is just making it up in her mind.
Yeah. I was going to try to offer maybe some sort of answer, but honestly, I
Did
don't
you
know.
also think so? Am I stupid?
No,
Well, those
not
two things
really.
aren't really mutually exclusive, but um,
No, I didn't really think that. I was just kind of like, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool, I guess. Because I mean, honestly, Jane doesn't really add anything to the plot
mhm.
until she gets older. So I was just kind of like, okay, that's an odd choice, but
Yeah,
I didn't think she was like not there,
not
you
there.
know.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'm just so used to that trope that I'm just like I just saw these people being positioned very oddly in a shot, and I go, she's not there. But
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I will start out by saying, besides that, that this movie is not very Tim Burton to me. The only thing that's Tim Burton are the paintings, which of course he's gravitated to those paintings. They're
mhm.
they're like out of his imagination.
I could see that. I could, because the whole time I was watching, I was like, oh, this doesn't feel, very Tim Burton. The two things that did were, one, yeah, the paintings themselves, but two, also his use of color, kind of like Edward Scissorhands. Everything's very bright.
Well, I was going to
Um,
say when she's leaving her house in the beginning of the movie, that's very Edward Scissorhands, that neighborhood, right?
mhm.
That she's leaving, and then the vibrant colors as she's moving to
San
San
Francisco.
Francisco. When she's driving to San Francisco, everything is very bright and very vibrant and very painterly, right? Which makes sense. But it reminded me of Mrs. Lovett's um, by the sea, and everything was vibrant and you
Hmm.
know very over the top in color and things like that. Um,
Yeah.
so that I liked. That was very Tim Burton in the opposite on the opposite spectrum of how what we would stereotypically think of him as, right?
Yeah. I would say comparatively to the other biopic that we've done this season, Ed Wood,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think with Ed Wood, Tim saw sort of a kindred spirit with
Mm-hmm.
Ed Wood. So that's why Ed Wood felt very normal in terms of Tim Burton's style and his tone.
Yeah.
But I think maybe with what, he was probably trying to tell Margaret's story properly, especially, I should also point out, I meant to point this out way at the beginning of the season. Um, Tim is definitely just he's a director. He's not a writer and a director because he has not had a hand in any of the scripts and any of the movies that we've done this season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I definitely feel like with this one, he was just wanting to tell Margaret's story, leave a lot of the Tim Burton isms kind of at the wayside. and really focus on Margaret's story, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I mean, that kind of fits in with the pattern that we've been going in, right? Because like last week, this didn't feel like a Fritz Lang, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't feel like a Tim Burton, right? But
Right.
in a way, I guess it's sort of interesting because it's like their growth as directors are able to tell a story in a way it needs to be told, not in a way that fits their own personal style, right?
Right. Well, so
Because
we've
I
already
mean,
kind
to
of
shoot.
covered.
Go ahead.
No, I was. Yeah, you finish, buddy. So you don't finish.
Mm.
So you don't lose that thought.
Well, I mean, to shoot this like to shoot it like Scissorhands or Beetlejuice or um, Corpse Bride, I guess. Uh, like to have them be like very pale and gaunt and everything's dark and it wouldn't fit right. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't make any sense because that's not who these people are, um, and especially since one of them moved to Hawaii, right? So that's definitely not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So it's just interesting. I don't know. Again, I think he was gravitated by the artwork itself, right? That makes
Yeah,
sense.
when you Google this film, no, I'm sorry. It was when I was Googling more about Walter because I wanted to understand Walter a little bit more. A picture of Tim sitting in between Margaret's paintings pops up. It's the funniest thing. Um, so, buddy, since we've kind of gone through the preliminary stuff, where do you want to begin with this movie?
Well, I mean, the character of Margaret um, is very interesting because she's she's not your stereotypical 50s woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's independent, right? Or at least she stands up for her and her daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with her deadbeat husband the first time, leaves him. That's very unusual for the time. Um, and then, of course, eventually standing up to Walter, finally having enough of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting. And she is extremely talented. And not only talented, but able to produce a massive amount of work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I should have looked up how many paintings she did because it was a lot.
Oh, here, keep talking. I
Sure.
got you, buddy.
Um, so I guess those would be my first impressions of Margaret. Um, but again, I spent the first few beats of the movie thinking that her daughter was dead. So I don't know. Um,
um, um, I can't find an exact amount.
that's okay. Well, I was just curious because in the movie it seemed like she was able to like produce
Just just
massive
crank them
amount of
out.
paintings like on command,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy.
Um, yeah. Um, yeah. I couldn't find anything that said how many she made, but yeah. Um, I do find it interesting that she was able to just crank it out. Now, granted, it's a movie; they were probably playing with time and and doing some minor time jumps here and there, but yeah, I would agree. It definitely seemed like she was just like on a
Yeah,
roll,
I mean, just
cranking
cranking
them
them out,
out. I mean, even
which
with
is wild.
the quote unquote masterpiece, she had like half of that already done.
Yeah,
Like ahead of schedule, I think is what they were implying.
wild.
So yeah. But yeah, Margaret, you know, I love how Amy Adams played her.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Amy Adams is fantastic in anything she does.
That's true.
And oddly enough, a little cameo from the real Margaret. Margaret is the old woman on the bench in one of the scenes, which I loved. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
Which Margaret actually did just recently pass away last year.
Oh,
she was
I didn't
94 years old.
Wow.
And guess when Walter died?
When?
In 2000.
Not very long, but he was older, wasn't he?
Yep. Yeah, but she outlived his ass.
Is he from Austria? Is that why Christoph Waltz played him? I didn't even look that up.
I don't think so. Everything I read about Walter is that they just kept referring to him as American.
Oh.
He is from Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh, well, I mean, that makes sense because Christoph Waltz does an amazing Nebraska accent. So that makes sense.
I think Christoph probably got the role because he plays a good villain, you know.
Yeah.
Especially with Walter being much more subtle and manipulative versus like Hans Landa from Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely think that's probably another reason why he got it. But we'll get to Walter. But anyway, so I love how Amy plays Margaret. It also makes me wonder if Margaret was really like that, like in real life. You know, someone who was very, you know, because she falls for Walter pretty quickly. Like, I think she'd only been separated from her husband for like what, a month or two.
It seemed that way, but I bet you it wasn't that fast. But
it was probably a cup.
The movie makes it seem it was very, very fast.
Yeah,
but you know, like, I guess we can start transitioning to Walter because the movie does this amazing job by tricking me, and I'm wondering how true this was. If those those street view paintings, if he really did just paint his name over those, or if that was just some like way, or if that was a reveal in the film to show that he really doesn't know how to paint, right? And that was the only way to show that. I don't know. Again, I should have done more research, but I've been very busy at work. I apologize.
Everything I seem to find about it is I don't think he did that, but I think it's a way for the film to show he doesn't know anything about art.
Yeah.
Truly. Because everything I read, it just mainly focused on everything with Margaret. So
okay. Good, but again, good job because for the film, good job because it's a good way of representing that he doesn't know how to paint, right? And again, tricking me into thinking that I saw him paint, which I didn't, I guess.
Well, you know, and you know, when we get that reveal with Walter that he doesn't know how to really do anything, it's like it kind of reminded me a lot of Glass Onion a little bit, where Edward Norton's character uses suggestion and people think like, oh yeah, he did do it. But I love that the movie already kind of gives us a clue. Like when we have that cameo with the real Margaret and Jane goes, hey, your canvas is blank.
Yeah.
And, you know, and Margaret's halfway through her painting already. And all his excuses is like, oh, well, you can't rush inspiration, you know?
Right.
Which I mean, maybe I'm reaching, but I feel like that was the film giving the audience a little bit of
course.
No,
clue. It absolutely was. No, that's what that is. It's foreshadowing that reveal that he does not know how to paint, right?
Right.
And in that he's just biding his time so he can like pretend or whatever. But that does bring me to the courtroom scene where, and by the way, I was going to jokingly tell Haley, I go, the only thing they're going to have to do is like paint in the courtroom, but that's silly. They're not going to do that. Because that doesn't seem like a real courtroom procedure, but here we are.
Well, and like I said, everything I read, they
yeah,
did
and that was
actually
legit.
do
Yes,
that.
they did.
Yeah.
If I were him, I would have tried.
I know. Yeah, just tried something. Like, you've seen her paint. Like, you could potentially try, but
Well, now I also thought that wouldn't it be funny if after all these years he actually did figure it out and then could reproduce like her paintings. I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, and that his whole like, my arm hurts, I can't paint today is true too. Like I don't know if he said it was like an inflammation, but he was just like, oh, I can't paint, my
Can't
arm
do it
hurts.
today.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre because again, like try at least, like if
Yeah.
you don't do anything you lose immediately. If you try, we'll see.
Yeah, especially considering, at the little blurb at the end of the movie, he was still so adamant that he was the real artist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, my guy, like, you proved yourself that you're not. Like, you kind of screwed yourself over there.
Definitely.
So I do find it very interesting that Walter as a character is, I don't want to say delusional, but he is so wrapped up in his own greed that he starts to believe his own lies,
Yeah, I mean, he definitely, reaches like a peak of narcissism when he's, when he's in this, when he's doing the scheme. So much so that, he's very, blunt and arrogant and all that to like, reporters and people who were interviewing him. And like when they were at their house, right? And that's when his daughter shows up and you're like, what the fuck? You have a daughter? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, because all we've gotten by that point is that he had a previous marriage. That was it.
Yeah. But, that's more foreshadowing that he's hiding more stuff, right? That, we have the blank canvas. We have this daughter that he never talks about or is never mentioned. And so he's hiding all of this stuff. And then again, good reveal of him not painting those street view paintings.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. And then, like, I thought for sure that maybe he was going to get away with it. The whole, like, oh, that was my, what did he say? His, like, not alter ego. I don't know why I can only think of alter ego. But, like, his pen name.
It's like a pseudonym. Yeah, pen name.
Yeah, pseudonym. There we go. Yeah, and then, like, and I thought for sure, I was like, okay, maybe he is, but then Margaret hits him with the, well, then why did you paint over it? And also, why would you use water-based paint on oil paint? And it's like, ooh. Definitely got him.
Got him.
But yeah, it's such a great reveal, especially when he knows he's beaten. He's trying so hard to make her believe, like, no, I went to the Louvre, I studied at this school, and she's like, just be honest with me. And then he breaks down and it's like, well, okay, yeah, I've never been good at painting, and it's just so, it's kind of triumphant, honestly. And we're still we still have like 45 minutes left in the movie, and we get that reveal. So
right, yeah,
so good.
Well, because I mean, we already didn't like him, right? He's already like not being nice to Margaret. He's taking all this credit, but he's being mean about it, and he's making her lie to her daughter, who is real apparently, and and lying to all these people, and she's like having a really hard time with it, and you really feel for her because it sucks to be so good at something and then not being able to tell people that you're good at it. Or, like when people were to ask her if she paints, she's, supposed to say, oh, no, not really.
Yeah. And then that goes so far as her to change up her style a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That way she can finally start getting credit for things that she's actually made.
Yeah.
which is just insane to me. But as Danny Houston points out, that it is very, of the times of why this was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, can I just say, I love that Danny Houston is our narrator.
I do love Danny
for the
Houston.
whole movie.
Yeah.
And I thought for sure we weren't going to see him because, like, when his voice comes on, I was like, I know that voice, and I looked it up. I was like, oh, okay. And then he fucking shows up later on. I was like, oh, I didn't think we were going to see you at all.
Yeah,
like
turns
I
out
thought
he's
for
a
sure.
newspaper reporter, I suppose.
Well, see, he says that when he introduces himself to the audience, that he's a reporter. But I was like, there's no way we're going to see him. We're just hearing his version of the story.
Oh, okay. That would have been cool.
Yeah. And then we see him.
Yeah. Several times.
Yeah, which I love that he, being a reporter, is so infatuated. Well, I wouldn't say I love it, but I do find it interesting that he's so infatuated with Walter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because, like, with their first interaction, he knows, like, well, you can't bullshit a bullshitter, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, he's intrigued by him because he just senses that he's, like, not being genuine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because, I mean, he even tells him, like, you can drop all that shit now. I know you're acting. Because him and the owner of the club are acting like they're going to sue one another to drum up business. And he's like, dude, you can drop that. It's fine. Like, I know you're pretending.
Now, here's something I find interesting about stuff like this. So, you had said at the end, you had mentioned about the little blurbs at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he still remained emphatic that he was the original painters. Okay, right. Like he was the one who painted all those. He was still adamant that was me. I promise. Like what? Now, obviously, no, he's probably just a narcissist, and he doesn't want to admit that he failed and that he's a liar and that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what if he did? I'm not saying he did. I'm saying let's play a game. I'm saying
okay.
This is it's an interesting way to think about biopics like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, what if he did paint those paintings, right? And then we're getting this completely fabricated story about his wife painting these paintings. And then it becomes this uplifting story about, this woman who, was having to lie all these years and stuff. It's, I don't know. I think about that sometimes when someone is triumphant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other person is adamant that they were the actual ones who did it, and I promise, right? Again, I feel like I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying that he did paint any of those paintings. It's more likely that she painted them. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that, I guess because I find it so hard to, like, stick with my lies. Like, if I were to be caught, I'm caught, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I feel like there was another biopic I saw recently that of a similar situation of someone lying, and the liar obviously is caught and found out, but they are so adamant, like, no, I was not lying, but I can't.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Remember.
If I wouldn't have thought about it if at the end he still insisted he painted those paintings.
You know what? I think you're right. Well, I think you're right. I think he is a narcissist, and I think Walter realized, like, once this all comes out, people are going to know that I'm not as good as I say I am. And I think he was trying to hold on to some sort of fame.
Sure.
Maybe,
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
But
what if,
Yeah, I mean that would be interesting, you
It's
know,
interesting.
if but unlike you, I don't think about those kinds of things.
Oh, okay.
So I mean it is an interesting what if, but I mean, I also know that we were given probably, 60% of the real facts in the
Hmm.
movie. So
Yeah. I mean, she proved it in
um
court that she could paint the painting. I understand. Okay. Again, it's the daughter is real and she painted the painting. They understand. Okay. I
dude,
want,
Zach's gonna
dude,
listen to this up.
watch it again the first 10 minutes and then tell me if you think that daughter's there.
Well, no. I completely see where you're coming from because she's framed not only behind Margaret, but like Margaret's here in the foreground, and Jane is back here,
Uh-huh.
diagonal from her in the background.
Yeah.
So,
And no one was really interacting with her, and I was like, okay, well then there you go. You know?
yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna tell you that you're wrong,
I mean, I
but
was. I am.
I mean, you were wrong,
Actively
but
wrong. Yeah.
I didn't have that thought that she
Okay.
wasn't real.
Maybe I was
This
just
is
wanting there to be more twists, I guess. Maybe that was
yeah,
I was wanting more, you know you know what it was? I was wanting um more background into why she paints these paintings, I guess. Because if I was like, oh,
yeah,
if her daughter had died and she's just recreating these paintings to bring her daughter back, I get that. Right?
yeah.
Not that I
Sorry.
need a reason why she paints the paintings. I just thought it would have been interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that they didn't touch on a whole lot of why Margaret specifically paints these types of paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I agree. I don't need it. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to tell me. Um, but I did want a little bit of just something, you know.
Well, it's like people wanted, a reason for Walter when he was in those interviews. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was obviously fabricated for him. But I'm wondering if a little bit of that, and it probably is now that I'm thinking about it, a little bit of that is probably her, right? Because she's helping him out. She's giving him her reasons and her feelings about the paintings and why she paints the paintings. And he obviously made up a story to go with it, but perhaps there was some truth to that when she was helping Walter fabricate a story for the paintings.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. She, she gave him enough to maybe he could, snake oil salesman twist it
Uh,
and make it a little bit more charismatic. But yeah, I just my biggest question is, and this is kind of like the same question I had after Ashley and I left Oppenheimer, which is why did she stick with him for so long?
mm-hmm.
You know, which I know she says during the court, the hearing, the lawsuit, which is that she felt like if she did leave, she wasn't going to be able to provide for her and her daughter. But then we see them a year later in Hawaii, and they're doing fine.
Well,
So,
and what she thinks is her worst case scenario is, it's never gonna be what's actually gonna happen. So I think at that point she was just like, whatever, I don't care, and there's let's just do it and see what happens, right? And
right.
obviously they're fine, but obviously at that point in time, her worst case scenario is not enough to risk, right? It's too
Mm-hmm.
bad. She doesn't even want to think about it. And then, it's also like if I spill the beans about me being the painter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then no one is, and they say it a few times in the movie that no one's going to buy art from a woman, right?
Right.
Except for whomever they said. Was George O'Keefe? Is that what he said? That was.
Oh yeah, because it was during when we meet his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they're talking to Danny Houston, and they're like, "Yeah, no one takes women's art seriously." And then she goes, "Well, what about Georgia O'Keeffe?"
Right. And so she's afraid of that, right? Because if she's found out, then they lose what they have, and then they won't be able to get it back. Because then it's just paintings from a woman, and no one wants those in 1958.
Yeah.
So there's that. So that's why she stays. And then the longer
Mm-hmm.
it goes, the more she feels that she can't. She definitely now can't.
Escape.
Well, she definitely
Yeah.
can't tell anybody now. So the longer they keep this up, the deeper they get into it, then it's just like we're too into it now, right? And they're becoming successful, which is another thing, right? If they
Mm-hmm.
weren't being successful, who cares? Let's go, right? But wildly successful, so she's actually getting to paint and it becomes successful. The only thing she doesn't have is credit,
Right.
and probably authority over what she does with the money. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know for sure Walter was probably keeping a bigger piece of that pie
Sure.
all to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was the only kind of like not qualm I had. It's just like that kind of question is like
Mm-hmm.
why she would stay. But again, I understand she probably felt like like you were just saying, she probably felt like she couldn't um leave. And yeah, especially with them how deep they were in the lie. She especially because he kind of threatened her with fraud, like
Yeah.
we're committing fraud here, which I don't think that's illegal. Just to say like, oh hey, yeah, I painted these paintings, let me sell it to you.
It depends.
I don't know. Yeah,
It depends. I
but
mean, like legal documents, stuff like that, probably.
yeah, that's true.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's I don't know. Seemed like a good enough reason for me that she'd stay. Until she didn't.
Right. Well, until he tries to light them on fire.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I saw the paint there. I
Um.
go, they're gonna explode.
Yeah. The turpentine.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess he forgot that she has like a second door into her studio. So
Yeah.
um, I I did want to mention this. Speaking of her studio, I love how when Kristen Ritter's looking at it, and he's all trying to play up the act, like I don't like anyone in here. And then he just paints like a couple of lines, like yeah, you see, I'm painting.
I did think that was very funny.
Um, but yeah, man, I really enjoy the movie. And this is a good segue into kind of how we wrapped up your Fritz Lang, last week with the Big Heat. I really liked the movie. It definitely felt like more of a mature movie for Tim Burton,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the chronological order that we did his films this season. This definitely felt like the most mature. I mean, not saying that like Batman, for instance, wasn't a mature film, but like in terms of tone, in terms of directing the actors and the movie itself, it definitely felt very mature, less catering to the emo crowd that he has been associated with by this point in his career.
Yeah, I think what you mean is it's a little bit more for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more for general audiences, right? It's less for Tim Burton fans. This is for everybody, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. As we're, the week before last, Sweeney Todd definitely was for, like, if you're a Tim Burton fan, you're going to love it.
yeah, and Sondheim.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean is that he wasn't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, it seemed like he was like, I'm not going to make this movie just for the people who like to come see my movies. I want everyone to know this story
Mm.
and to appreciate this artist's work.
Well, and then again, he is telling a story the way it needs to be told, right? So he's not, even if he wanted to, it wouldn't have made any sense, right? To tell the story
Sure.
in a gray world with pops of red, who, you know what I mean? Like, it's like not this story, not for this.
I would say, because I just remember this. I would say the only Tim Burton-ism that we got in the film is when Margaret finally decides to leave Walter, and he puts his eye through the keyhole.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
that was like, okay, there it is.
that was
There's
a
our
cool
Tim
shot.
Burton-ism.
That I like.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
this one, it's an odd choice for him to direct in the first place.
okay.
I think it's weird. That this is one of his, but it wasn't bad. I liked it.
Yeah. I mean, so did I. I mean, I'm definitely glad I finally saw it. Um, of the movies we did this season, I would rank it, pretty high up there. Um, I would say in terms of rewatchability, I would definitely rewatch this one first, then Mars Attacks.
We are
Um,
different.
I mean, not saying that I wouldn't rewatch Mars Attacks, but if someone literally came to me and said, like, you can only rewatch one of these movies, it would be Big Eyes.
No,
Um,
we are different.
but just like with Fritz Lang, we saw his progression as sort of the, starting with, our Batman double feature of this sort of, essentially he was taking a very much of a, I'm the loner director. I make films for loners, for outcasts, to this director who, is making films on family and drama, and I think it's because I believe by this point he and Helena had a child together. I could be wrong. Hang on.
Okay,
Everyone calm down.
can't.
Stop yelling.
I'm too amped up. You've
Um
you've set the bar too high, and I can't. So much suspense.
I mean, he does have two kids.
Riveting.
Both of them are from Helena. One his son was born in 2003, and their daughter was born in 2007. So yeah, so by this point, yeah, he's 2014. He's a big dad, so he will. He's a big dad. He wants to probably make something that not necessarily are quote unquote for kids, but tells more of a family oriented story.
I don't know if I would take that as a reasoning. I don't know. Maybe he just
Okay.
Again, resonates with the paintings. It is a fascinating story, right? Just bar none, it is fascinating because what on earth? You know what I mean? Like, what a crazy set of circumstances that these people have put themselves in, right?
Right.
And so, like, if you love art, if you love this kind of art, which I'm sure he does, and it comes with a cool backstory, forget it. It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't fit, and that in and of itself is also interesting.
Yeah.
That is a fit.
And he assembled this awesome cast with great chemistry. I thought Christoph and Amy were fantastic on screen together.
Yes.
And I think that's something that has always remained consistent in all his films, especially the ones we've done this season, is he knows how to assemble a cast, especially with Mars Attacks, considering he got anyone and everyone under the sun to be in that movie.
Best one of the season. Is that what we're saying? Mars Attacks, best of the season. All right. It's above M. It's above.
I mean, he got Michael J. Fox to be in it, and this is right before he decided to stop, retired from film acting and just stuck to TV acting.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't know. It might be now.
Oh man, we did it.
Hey, look at us. We did
us.
it.
Jesus.
Well, I would take that as the wrap up.
Yeah.
So Jeremy,
Yes.
Next week we have to get ready for our end of season series.
Yeah.
And once again, this time it is your turn.
My turn.
So what are we going to be doing? Even though I already know.
I know you already know. And we may have even mentioned it on this the season. I don't remember. But
I don't think we have.
So a few years ago, for my turn of the end of season series, I did
season 2.
Season 2. I pitched from stage to screen, and we did play adaptations. We did 4 of them, play adaptations in season 2, and we're going to do it again. So we are doing from stage to screen, Act 2. All right.
Yeah, I see what you did there.
Thanks. And so 4 more. I love films based on plays.
Well, man, I know I've told you, and I know I've said it on the podcast since we did that. Sunset Limited was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I will never not talk about that movie. Like, I told everyone about the movie. I was like, go watch the Sunset Limited.
Yeah.
And when you gave me the list for this one, of course, the final one, I'm assuming you're saving that one. I want it to be a surprise for everyone.
We're going in chronological order for this as well. So, I mean, it just happens to be the last one.
So that one will be the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm especially excited to talk about that last one.
Yeah.
But, this gives me another chance to see films that were based on plays, like Bug, for instance.
Yeah.
Bug
was a good one.
Phenomenal. Yeah. And had you never told me it was based on a play, I would have been like, cool. Like,
yeah.
Like I like that movie was so fantastic that you don't need to know that it was once a play. So the ones you told me for this one, I'm excited for.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen one of them, so I guess we're gonna learn if these 3 are gonna blow my mind.
Sure,
like the other 4.
Let's hope so. I mean, I kind of set the bar way too high the first time, because the first time was 12 Angry Men, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Bug, and The Sunset Limited. I mean, those are tremendous, right? But this time,
there's 12 Angry Men, right?
It's so good.
Hang on. Right there.
If you don't have the Criterion and you want it, great, but you can also get the Kino Lorber 4K edition, which is also so we're kicking off the end of season series, stage to screen. Not only is this based on a play, but it's also based on a book. So the book is by Ken Casey. The play is by Dale Wasserman, and the movie, of course, is Milos Forman. Guys, we're doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest next week. So
if I'm being 100% honest, I'm really excited to see this. I've always wanted to see it. It's always interested me because, once again, we're back with our boy Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
Danny DeVito, Christopher Lloyd,
mm-hmm.
Brad. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He went on to become the voice of Chucky.
Mm-hmm. He's also in Deadwood. So shout out to Deadwood. I love Deadwood.
And he's in Lord of the Rings. He's Grima. Yeah.
Yes.
But I've always wanted to see it because I distinctly remember my grandparents, my mom's parents, having this DVD anniversary edition of it that had like all this like really cool
playing cards
stuff in it. It didn't have playing cards. It was just like this really nice
mm-hmm.
that I really liked, and I just never got around to seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't, of course, this is before I really understood film. And then like I watched a sort of like an analysis of it. And I was like, okay, that still interests me. And I just never got around to it.
Now I'm in a love-hate relationship with Ryan Murphy. So I have not seen Nurse Ratched. I don't want to. So, but those of you who are interested and have seen it, let me know. But if it's as good at all,
supposed to be
it's supposed to be a prequel. Yeah, to One Flew Over, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't care how good Sarah Paulson is. Who fucking cares? Don't ruin it.
Oh, look, I'm gonna be honest, bro. Hang on, sidebar, everyone. Right. Ryan Murphy has run out of ideas for American Horror Story. Like the next season, Delicate, Ashley. This is the first season that Ashley has ever told me because she loves American Horror Story. She's like, I will not be watching that season.
Really?
Mainly because the subject matter is too much for her.
Oh, I don't even
but for me, like the last few seasons I haven't really cared about. But for me, he's basing this on a book. I'm like, so you mean to tell me this is his first season that it's not original, like that, because that's how many ideas he's ran out of.
Interesting. Based on a book.
Because he's stretched himself too thin with that stupid fucking spinoff American Horror Stories and doing a whole season's worth of shit in one episode. Like, dude, Ryan Murphy, you just need to stop. Just reboot Glee already. But to your point, I haven't seen Ratched either, mainly because since I haven't seen One Flew Over, I was like, should I even watch this? Even though, yes, I love Sarah Paulson. I think she's phenomenal.
If those of you who are listening aren't excited yet about One Flew Over, I mean, you should be, because it's wonderful and it's amazing and everything's great. It's one of the first films, or one of the only films, there's only a few, that in the Academy Awards won the Big Five. So that's actor, actress, screenplay, director, picture.
Best picture, yeah.
1975.
The last one to do that, at least as far as I know, was, it's behind my head, I'm not going to get it, was Everything Everywhere All at Once. Yeah.
The Big Five. So, I don't want to even say, because I don't know. But there have been others than those two, but I don't remember. I think
Everything's the most recent.
Yeah, and I think Return of the King either did it also or got close.
I think it got close. I know it got Best Picture for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember. But anyway, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's next week. Very, very excited. And hopefully this will go well. I mean, get as excited as you want about these stage to screen. I am excited. I love film adaptations of plays. I love how creative they can get with the subject matter, because you're having to add a little extra, but also know what to keep sort of subdued and grounded, right? Because you don't want to go too over the top. That's why I think Bug is so good, or even just like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? I mean, you might as well be watching a stage play, right? But it's so good that they add just enough, but they keep everything else as subdued as they can. I don't know. It's an art. I don't know how they do it.
I'm super excited, man. The only problem is, and I'll probably say it again when this series wraps up, is you set these bars too high, and then when it's my turn to pick an end of season series, sometimes I'm worried they don't pan out as well. I think the best end of season series I picked was the Blood and Ice Cream trilogy.
It was a good one. That was fun.
Yeah. But
highest rated episode we have. Good job.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed our episode on Big Eyes, and we will see you next week for our end of season series, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.